The map in your nightmares. A journey home to yourself. You have been walking through your days like a stranger in your own life. There is something you cannot name that follows you into sleep, something that makes you wake with your heart racing and your sheets damp with the sweat of unnamed fears. Tonight, you're ready to turn toward what you have been running from. The darkness outside your window is not your enemy. It holds the very medicine you have been seeking in all the wrong places. Every shadow contains a forgotten piece of yourself, every dream a message written in the language your soul remembers, but your mind has learned to ignore. You close your eyes now, not to escape, but to finally arrive somewhere you have never dared to go. This is not sleep you're entering, but a deeper kind of waking. The journey begins not when you find the answers, but when you stop pretending you do not know the questions. The first thing you notice is how tired you are of wearing masks. Not the obvious ones that others see, but the ones you wear even when you're alone. The mask that says you are fine when you're breaking. The mask that says you're strong when you feel like tissue paper in the rain. The mask that says you have it all figured out when you feel more lost than a child in a crowded marketplace. You've been performing yourself for so long that you've forgotten what your real face looks like. When you catch glimpses of it in unguarded moments, it startles you. There is so much sadness there, so much longing, so much beauty that you have been taught to hide behind accomplishments and explanations and the exhausting work of being acceptable. Tonight, you give yourself permission to remove every mask one by one until you are standing naked in your own presence. It is terrifying, and it is the most natural thing in the world. This is how you were born. This is who you are when no one is watching, and you have nothing left to prove. The room around you begins to shift and breathe. The walls are no longer walls, but doorways into landscapes you recognize from dreams you thought you had forgotten. There is the forest where you used to run as a child, but now the trees are taller and their branches whisper your real name, the one that was given to you before you learned to answer to anything else. You step through the first doorway and your bare feet touch earth that remembers you. The path ahead is not straight or clear, but it glows with a light that comes from somewhere deeper than the sun. This is the light of recognition. The light that appears when you finally stop trying to be someone you're not and start remembering who you have always been. The child in you begins to stir. She has been waiting so patiently in the corner of your heart, holding all the wonder and creativity and spontaneous joy that you decided were too dangerous to express. She reaches for your hand with fingers sticky from imaginary treats and eyes bright with the kind of hope that survives everything. You kneel down to meet her at eye level. She's beautiful in the way that children are beautiful before the world teaches them to doubt their own radiance. She is you before you learned that love had conditions, before you discovered that safety required performance, before you understood that belonging meant hiding the parts of yourself that were too much or too little or too real. She whispers something in your ear, and you remember the dreams you used to have before you learned they were impossible. She shows you the pictures you used to draw before you learned they were not good enough. She reminds you of the songs you used to sing before you learned your voice was not worth hearing. Together, you walk deeper into the forest of your own becoming. The trees here grow in spirals, their bark marked with symbols that look familiar, though you cannot remember where you have seen them before. They are the hieroglyphs of your unconscious mind, the sacred writing that your soul uses when words are too small to carry the weight of truth. You reach out to touch one of the symbols and suddenly you're flooded with a memory so vivid it stops your breath. You're 7 years old and you have just learned that love can disappear without warning. The adults around you are using words like temporary and adjusting, and everything will be fine. But you know with the terrible clarity of childhood that nothing will ever be the same. That night, you made a decision that would shape the next decades of your life. You decided that the safest way to love was to love a little less, to hope a little less, to need a little less. You decided that the part of you that loved so fiercely and completely was too dangerous to let loose in a world where people could vanish like morning mist. So you buried that part of yourself in the deepest place you could find. You covered it with layers of reasonable expectations and appropriate responses and mature understanding. You told yourself you were being wise, being realistic, being grown up. But late at night, when your defenses were down, you could hear it crying in its underground prison. Now, standing in this forest of remembering, you understand that what you buried was not weakness, but your greatest strength. Your capacity to love without reservation, to hope without guarantee, to give without counting the cost. You buried your superpower because someone else could not handle its intensity. The trees around you begin to rustle with a wind that carries voices. These are the voices of all the people who tried to teach you that your natural way of being in the world was too much, too sensitive, too emotional, too intense, too needy, too different. They meant well, most of them. They were trying to help you fit into a world that rewards conformity and punishes authenticity. But as you listen more carefully, you hear something else beneath their words. You hear their own fear, their own pain, their own desperate attempts to make sense of a world that had taught them the same brutal lessons about love and safety and belonging. They were not evil people. They were wounded people doing the best they could with the tools they had been given. This recognition does not erase the impact of their words, but it begins to dissolve the power those words have held over you. When you understand that their judgment was not about you, but about their own limitations, you can finally begin to separate their story from yours. You walk further into the forest and come upon a clearing where a circle of stone surrounds a pool of water so still it looks like black glass. You approach carefully, drawn by something you cannot name. When you lean over the water to look at your reflection, you do not see your current face, but the face you wore before the world began to shape you. This face is unmarked by the lines of worry and disappointment. The eyes are clear and trusting. The mouth is soft and ready to speak truth without apology. This is your original face, the one you had before you learned to wear any other. Looking at it, you feel a grief so profound it takes your breath away. You have been grieving this lost self for years without knowing it. The depression, the anxiety, the sense that something is always missing. These were the symptoms of a soul separated from its source. You have been homesick for yourself, longing for a return to a place you never really left but learned to forget how to access. The water begins to ripple, and in the ripples you see scenes from your life playing out like a movie. But now you can see them from a different angle. You can see the places where you chose safety over truth, where you chose acceptance over authenticity, where you chose the familiar pain of being misunderstood over the terrifying possibility of being truly seen. You do not judge these choices. You understand now that they were survival strategies, the best solutions your frightened mind could devise to navigate an often hostile world. You were doing the best you could with the resources you had at the time, but you also understand that what once protected you is now imprisoning you. The reflection in the water shifts again, and now you see yourself as you are in this moment, standing at the edge of transformation. You see the courage it has taken to arrive at this place of reckoning. You see the strength it requires to face what you have been avoiding. You see the love that has brought you here, the love that refuses to let you settle for a life that is smaller than your soul. As you watch, your reflection reaches out its hand toward you. This is the invitation you have been waiting for without knowing you were waiting. This is your true self calling you home. You reach out to meet the hand in the water, and the moment your fingers touch the surface, everything changes. You're no longer standing by the pool, but floating in warm darkness that feels like the womb of the universe. Here, in this space before time and after time, you remember what you knew before you were born. You remember that you're not a mistake or an accident, but a deliberate expression of something vast and loving and creative. You remember that you came here with gifts to give, with a unique way of seeing and being that the world needs. You remember that your sensitivity is not a flaw but a superpower, that your intensity is not too much but exactly right, that your difference is not a problem to be solved but a gift to be shared. The darkness around you pulses with the rhythm of your own heartbeat, and you realize that you're not separate from this creative force but an expression of it. You are the universe becoming conscious of itself through your particular eyes, feeling itself through your particular heart, creating itself through your particular hands. This knowing floods through you like liquid light, dissolving years of conditioning and self-doubt. You feel yourself expanding, remembering dimensions of your being that you had forgotten existed. You are vast and tender, powerful and vulnerable, ancient and eternally young. You are a walking contradiction and a perfect wholeness all at once. Slowly you become aware that you are not alone in this place. There are others here, fellow travellers who have also found their way to the source. Some you recognize as people you have loved in your life, but you see them now as they truly are, stripped of all the roles and identities that kept you from seeing their essence. Others are strangers, but only in the most superficial sense. At this level of being, there are no strangers, only different faces of the same fundamental aliveness. You see how your individual journey is part of a larger pattern, how your healing contributes to the healing of the whole, how your awakening sends ripples through the consciousness of everyone you touch. A figure approaches you through the luminous darkness, and as it draws near, you recognize the face of a wise old man whose eyes hold the depth of ages. He does not speak with words, but with a presence that communicates directly to your soul. In his gaze, you see reflected not just who you are, but who you are becoming. This is the part of yourself that has never been wounded, the eternal aspect of your being that remains untouched by all the storms of your human experience. This is your inner guide, your connection to wisdom that transcends the limited understanding of your conscious mind. He has been waiting patiently for you to remember that he exists. Without words, he shows you that every experience you have had, even the most painful ones, has been serving your awakening. The betrayals taught you to trust more deeply in what cannot betray you. The losses taught you to love more fully while you have the chance. The failures taught you that your worth is not dependent on your performance. He shows you that what you have been calling your wounds are actually your gateways, the places where life force enters to transform you. The very experiences that seem to break you are actually breaking you open, creating space for more love, more wisdom, more compassion than you ever thought possible. This does not mean that the pain was not real, or that it should be minimized or dismissed. It means that pain has been your teacher, your guide, your unexpected ally in the process of becoming who you truly are. It means that nothing has been wasted, nothing has been in vain, nothing has been a mistake. The old man reaches out and places his hand over your heart, and suddenly you can feel the presence of everyone who has ever loved you, everyone who has ever seen your true worth, everyone who has ever believed in your potential, even when you could not believe in it yourself. Their love has been with you all along, woven into the fabric of your being, supporting you even when you felt most alone. You understand now that love is not something you have to earn, or deserve or be good enough for. Love is your natural state, your birthright, the very ground of your being. The love you have been seeking outside yourself has always been inside you, waiting for you to remove the barriers you erected against it. The scene around you begins to shift and swirl, and you find yourself in a vast library with shelves that stretch beyond sight. These are not books of facts and information, but volumes of wisdom that can only be read with the heart. Each book contains the essence of a life fully lived, the distilled understanding that comes from embracing both joy and sorrow with equal grace. You pull one of the books from the shelf and open it to a random page. The words on the page seem to glow with their own light, and as you read them, you feel their truth resonate in every cell of your body. They speak of the necessity of facing your shadow, of befriending the parts of yourself you have rejected, of integrating all aspects of your humanity into a coherent whole. The book tells you that wholeness does not mean perfection, but the willingness to embrace all of who you are without editing or apology. It means making friends with your anger as well as your joy, your doubt as well as your faith, your vulnerability as well as your strength. It means understanding that you are large enough to contain contradictions without being torn apart by them. As you read, the wise old man appears beside you again, and this time he speaks with a voice that sounds like wind through ancient trees. The privilege of a lifetime, he says, is to become who you truly are. The words hang in the air between you like a benediction, a blessing, a promise of what is possible when you stop trying to be anyone else. He tells you that the journey you're on is not about fixing what is broken, but about discovering what was never broken. It is not about becoming someone new, but about uncovering who you have always been beneath the layers of conditioning and protection and performance. It is not about reaching a destination, but about falling in love with the journey itself. You close the book and place it back on the shelf, but its words have already become part of you. They join the growing collection of truths that your soul recognizes as essential nutrients for its continued growth. You realize that you have always been drawn to these kinds of truths, even when your mind could not yet make sense of them. This is why certain poetry made you cry for reasons you could not explain. This is why certain music reached into your chest and rearranged something fundamental. This is why certain moments of beauty stopped time and made you feel like you were remembering something you'd forgotten. Your soul was recognizing itself in these expressions of deeper truth. The library begins to fade around you, and you find yourself walking through a garden where every flower represents a different aspect of human experience. There are roses of passionate love and lilies of peaceful acceptance, sunflowers of joyful celebration and violets of quiet introspection. All of them are necessary, all of them beautiful in their own way. You kneel down to smell a cluster of flowers that seem to pulse with a familiar energy, and as their fragrance fills your lungs, you are transported to moments in your life when you felt most alive, most yourself, most connected to the source of your being. These were the moments when you dropped your guard and let your authentic self shine through. Perhaps it was the night you stayed up until dawn talking with a friend about the meaning of life. Perhaps it was the afternoon you spent alone in nature feeling your connection to something larger than yourself. Perhaps it was the moment you created something that came not from your mind, but from a deeper place of inspiration. These moments were not accidents or anomalies. They were glimpses of your natural state, previews of what life could be like if you stopped trying so hard to be someone you are not and started trusting who you are. They were invitations to a different way of being, clues to a treasure that was hidden in plain sight. You stand up from the flowers and continue walking through the garden, and with each step you feel more solid, more real, more completely yourself. The fragmented pieces of your identity are coming together like a puzzle, finally revealing its picture. You're not just the roles you play, or the achievements you accumulate, or the problems you solve. You're something much more mysterious and wonderful than any of these surface identities. At the center of the garden, you come upon a fountain whose water catches the light and throws rainbows in all directions. The sound of the water is not just pleasant, but somehow essential, like the sound of life itself. You sit on the edge of the fountain and let the mist kiss your face, and in that moment you feel held by something infinitely loving and patient and wise. This is the feeling you have been searching for in all your relationships, all your achievements, all your attempts to find meaning and purpose. But it was never dependent on external circumstances. It was always available, always present, always waiting for you to slow down enough to notice it. The wise old man appears one more time, sitting beside you on the edge of the fountain. In the rainbow light, his face looks ancient and ageless simultaneously, marked by great suffering and great joy in equal measure. He is what you could become if you embrace your full humanity without reservation. The cave you fear to enter, he says, looking directly into your eyes, holds the treasure you seek. His words land in your heart like seeds in fertile soil, and you understand that every fear you have been avoiding contains a gift that is meant for you. Your greatest wounds hold your greatest medicine. Your deepest shadows contain your brightest light. He tells you about the night sea journey, the mythic passage that every hero must take through the darkness of their own unconscious. It is a journey that cannot be avoided, only postponed. It is the price of becoming fully human, fully alive, fully yourself. And like all great journeys, it transforms not just the traveller but everyone the traveller touches. You think of all the people in your life who need you to complete this journey, who need you to become who you truly are. Your loved ones who deserve the gift of your authentic presence. The strangers who are waiting for the unique contribution only you can make. The future generations who will benefit from the healing work you do on yourself today. This gives your personal journey a larger meaning, a cosmic significance that extends far beyond your individual happiness. You're not just healing yourself, but participating in the healing of the world. You're not just finding your way home, but lighting the path for others who are also trying to find their way. The fountain beside you begins to sing with voices of all the people throughout history who have taken this same journey, who have faced their shadows and claimed their light, who have transformed their wounds into wisdom and their pain into compassion. You are part of an ancient lineage of seekers and healers and truth-tellers. Their presence fills you with courage for what lies ahead. You're not pioneering uncharted territory, but following a well-worn path that countless others have walked before you. You have guides and allies and ancestors cheering you on from the other side of fear. You're not alone in this work, even when it feels lonely. The garden around you begins to shimmer and shift, and you realize that it's time to begin the return journey to ordinary consciousness. But you understand now that ordinary consciousness will never be quite the same. You are carrying back with you a treasure that will continue to transform your daily life in ways both subtle and profound. As the scenery fades, the wise old man offers you one final gift. It is a small mirror, perfectly round and warm to the touch. When you look into it, You do not see your physical appearance, but the essence of who you are becoming. You see the integration of all your parts, the harmony of your contradictions, the beauty of your complete humanity. Remember, he says, as he begins to fade from view, you are not broken and in need of fixing. You are not lost and in need of finding. You are asleep and in need of awakening. Everything you need is already within you, waiting for you to recognize it, claim it, and share it with the world. The mirror in your hands grows warm and begins to glow with a soft golden light. As you gaze into its depths, you see not just your reflection, but the reflection of all the selves you have ever been and all the selves you're yet to become. You see the child who played in gardens of imagination, the adolescent who wrote poetry in hidden notebooks, the adult who sometimes catches glimpses of magic in ordinary moments. All of these selves are present in this moment, integrated and whole. The parts of yourself you thought you had lost forever were never really gone, only dormant, waiting for this moment of recognition and reunion. The wise old man's voice echoes in your mind like a gentle bell, and you realize that his voice is your voice, speaking from the deepest well of your own wisdom. You close your eyes and feel yourself floating back through layers of consciousness, carrying with you the memory of what you have experienced and the knowledge of what is possible. You are returning to your body, to your bed, to your ordinary life, but you're not the same person who began this journey. The room around you solidifies, and you become aware once again of the weight of your body against the mattress, the sound of your breath moving in and out, the gentle rhythm of your heart. But underneath these familiar sensations, you can feel the presence of something new, something awakened, something forever changed. You understand now that the journey you have taken tonight was not a fantasy or escape, but the most real thing you have ever experienced. It was a return to your authentic self, a remembering of your true nature, a homecoming to the place you never really left but forgot how to recognize. The symbols you encountered in the forest are still with you, carved now into the walls of your consciousness. The feelings you experienced in the garden are still blooming in your heart. The wisdom you received from the old man is still flowing through your veins like liquid gold. You feel different, and yet you feel like yourself for the first time in years. This is the paradox of awakening. You do not become someone new, but remember who you have always been beneath all the layers of conditioning and protection and performance. The darkness of your room no longer feels threatening or empty. It feels pregnant with possibility, rich with the same mystery you encountered in your journey. You understand now that this darkness is not the absence of light, but the womb from which light is born. You think about tomorrow, about how you will carry this new understanding into your daily life. You realize that the real work is just beginning. The insights you have gained tonight are seeds that must be watered with conscious attention and care. The transformation you have experienced must be lived, breathed, embodied in every moment of your waking life. But you're not overwhelmed by this prospect. You feel equipped for the journey ahead in a way you have never felt before. You have tools now that you didn't have this morning. You have perspective that changes everything. You have a compass that points not to magnetic north, but to your own true north. You think of the people in your life who have been waiting for you to show up as your authentic self, your partner who has been loving you through all your masks and performances, longing to meet the real you, your children who need to see what it looks like to be unapologetically yourself, your friends who have been drawn to something in you that even you could not name. Tomorrow, when you interact with these people, something will be different. They may not be able to name what has changed, but they will feel it. They will sense that you are more present, more solid, more real. Some will be drawn to this new energy like moths to flame. Others may feel threatened by your increased authenticity and try to pull you back into old patterns. Both responses are natural and predictable. Not everyone in your life is ready for you to be fully yourself. Some people need you to stay small so they can feel big. Some people need you to stay confused so they can feel wise. Some people need you to stay broken so they can feel whole. Your job is not to manage their discomfort or to make your transformation palatable to those who are not ready for it. Your job is to live your truth with as much love and compassion as you can muster, while maintaining healthy boundaries with those who would diminish your light. You remember the wise old man's words about the cave you fear to enter, holding the treasure you seek. Every difficult conversation you have avoided, every boundary you have been afraid to set, every truth you have been reluctant to speak. These are all caves waiting to be explored. Each one contains a treasure that will make you more whole, more free, more yourself. The mirror you received as a gift is still with you, though now it exists not as a physical object but as a way of seeing. Whenever you feel lost or confused or tempted to put on one of your old masks, you can look into this inner mirror and remember who you really are. This mirror reflects not just your current self, but your highest potential, your most integrated self, the person you are becoming through this ongoing process of awakening. It shows you that you are not a fixed entity, but a dynamic, evolving expression of consciousness itself. You feel a deep gratitude welling up in your chest, gratitude for this journey, for this moment, for this opportunity to remember and return to yourself. You are grateful for all the experiences that brought you to this point, even the painful ones, especially the painful ones. They were the cracks through which the light got in. You think of a phrase that has been whispered by seekers throughout the ages. What wound did ever heal but by degrees? Your healing has been happening by degrees, slowly and steadily, preparing you for this moment of integration and understanding. Every tear you have cried, every fear you have faced, every small act of courage has contributed to this homecoming. The child within you stirs again, and you feel her presence like a warm hand in yours. She is no longer hidden or ashamed, but integrated into your adult consciousness, bringing with her all the qualities you thought you had to sacrifice to be mature. Wonder and creativity and playfulness and trust, and the capacity to be amazed by simple things. She reminds you that life is not a problem to be solved, but an adventure to be lived. She shows you that you do not have to choose between being responsible and being spontaneous, between being wise and being innocent, between being strong and being vulnerable. You can be all of these things because you are large enough to contain multitudes. The wise old man's presence is also still with you, not as a separate entity but as an aspect of your own deepest knowing. He represents the part of you that has always understood, even when your conscious mind was confused. He is your connection to the timeless wisdom that transcends all cultural conditioning and personal history. Together, the child and the wise man form a complete inner guidance system. The child provides the enthusiasm and creativity and fresh perspective. The wise man provides the discrimination and patience and long view. Together, they help you navigate the complexities of living as an awakened being in a world that often seems designed to keep people asleep. You realize that this integration of polarities is what the ancients meant when they spoke of the marriage of heaven and earth, spirit and matter, masculine and feminine principles. It is not about choosing one side over the other, but about finding the dynamic balance that includes and transcends both. This balance is not static but fluid, constantly adjusting to the needs of each moment. Sometimes you need to be more childlike, more open, more trusting. Sometimes you need to be more discerning, more boundaried, more protective of your energy. The key is to respond consciously rather than react unconsciously. You feel yourself settling deeper into this new way of being, like a tree sending its roots deeper into rich soil. You're grounded now in a way you've never been before, connected to a source of nourishment that is inexhaustible. This is what it means to come home to yourself. The night outside your window is beginning to lighten, though dawn is still hours away. You're suspended in that magical time between night and day, between sleeping and waking, between who you were and who you are becoming. This liminal space feels sacred, charged with possibility. You think about the mythic dimension of what you have experienced tonight. Every great story tells the same essential tale. A hero ventures into the unknown, faces trials and challenges, receives guidance from wise allies, confronts their deepest fears, claims their treasure, and returns home transformed. Tonight, you have lived this story not as entertainment but as reality. The hero's journey is not just a narrative structure, but a map of psychological transformation. It describes the process by which consciousness evolves, how individuals grow beyond their conditioning, how souls awaken to their true nature. You have walked this path tonight, and you will continue walking it for the rest of your life. Each day will offer new opportunities to choose courage over comfort, truth over convenience, love over fear. Each interaction will be a chance to practice showing up as your authentic self. Each challenge will be an invitation to go deeper, to trust more, to love more fully. You're no longer the same person who went to sleep last night carrying the weight of unexamined fears and unintegrated parts. You are someone who has faced their shadow and found light, who has descended into the underworld and returned with treasure, who has died to an old way of being and been reborn into something more whole. This transformation is both dramatic and subtle. Dramatic because it represents a fundamental shift in your relationship to yourself and life. Subtle because it does not change the basic facts of your existence. You still have the same responsibilities, the same relationships, the same circumstances. But your relationship to all of these has been fundamentally altered. You are like someone who has been given a new pair of glasses and can suddenly see clearly for the first time. The world has not changed, but your perception of it has been radically transformed. Where once you saw problems, you now see opportunities. Where once you saw limitations, you now see possibilities. Where once you saw separation, you now see connection. This new way of seeing will take time to integrate fully into your daily life. There will be moments when you forget and slip back into old patterns of thinking and being. This is not failure, but part of the process. Each time you remember and return to this deeper truth, you strengthen the neural pathways that support your authentic self. You think of the people throughout history who have made this same journey, who have faced their own darkness and found their own light. The mystics and poets and artists and revolutionaries who refused to accept the limitation of conventional thinking. The ordinary people who lived extraordinary lives simply by being true to themselves. You are part of this lineage now, this underground river of consciousness that flows beneath the surface of conventional culture. You carry their courage in your cells, their wisdom in your bones, their love in your heart. You're not alone in this work, even when it feels lonely. The eastern sky is beginning to show the faintest hint of colour, the deep blue of night giving way to the purple and rose of approaching dawn. Soon you will need to return to the world of alarm clocks and obligations and ordinary consciousness. But you understand now that ordinary consciousness is also sacred when approached with the right eyes. Every moment of your life is an opportunity to practice what you have learned tonight. Every breath is a chance to remember who you really are. Every heartbeat is a reminder that you are alive, you are here. You are participating in the magnificent mystery of existence. You place your hand over your heart and feel its steady rhythm. This is the drum that has been beating since before you were born and will continue beating until your last breath. It is your most faithful companion, your most reliable teacher, your most honest guide. It knows when you are living in alignment with your truth and when you are betraying yourself. From now on, you will listen more carefully to this inner compass. You will pay attention to how your body responds to different people and situations. You will notice when your energy expands and when it contracts. You will trust the wisdom of your cells as much as the wisdom of your mind. This is not about making drastic changes overnight, but about making small adjustments that honor your truth. It might mean saying no to commitments that drain you, and yes to activities that energize you. It might mean spending less time with people who diminish your light and more time with those who celebrate it. It might mean speaking up when you would normally stay silent, or staying quiet when you would normally fill the air with unnecessary words. It might mean taking risks you have been avoiding, or stopping behaviors that no longer serve you. The changes will be as unique as you are. What matters is not the specific form these changes take, but the intention behind them. The intention to live from your authentic center rather than from your protective personality. The intention to trust your own experience rather than external authorities. The intention to follow your heart even when your mind cannot understand where it is leading. You feel a deep peace settling over you, the peace that comes from no longer fighting against yourself. For so many years, you've been at war with aspects of your own nature, trying to eliminate or hide or transform the parts of yourself that you judged as unacceptable. Tonight, you have called a truce in this internal conflict. This does not mean that you have become perfect or that you will never struggle again. It means that you have stopped seeing your struggles as evidence of your inadequacy and started seeing them as opportunities for growth. You have stopped trying to fix yourself and started accepting yourself as a work in progress. The phrase work in progress feels different now. Instead of implying that you're somehow deficient or incomplete, it suggests that you are a dynamic, evolving expression of life itself. You are not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. This shift in perspective changes everything. Where once you experienced yourself as broken and in need of repair, you now experience yourself as whole and in the process of becoming. Where once you felt like you were falling behind some imaginary schedule, you now feel like you're exactly where you need to be. The wise old man's voice echoes in your mind again. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. These are the words of someone who devoted his life to understanding the hidden dynamics of the human psyche, someone who mapped the territory you have just explored. You understand now why these words have resonated with seekers for generations. They point to the fundamental challenge of human existence, how to become conscious of the unconscious patterns that govern our lives, how to bring light to the dark corners of our psyche, how to integrate the disowned aspects of ourselves. This is the work that you committed to tonight, consciously or unconsciously. This is the work that will continue for the rest of your life, not as a burden, but as a sacred calling. You're being invited to participate in your own evolution, to become an active agent in your own transformation. The mirror you receive from the wise old man represents this commitment to consciousness. Every time you look into it, you're choosing to see yourself clearly, rather than through the distorted lens of your conditioning. You're choosing truth over comfort, authenticity over acceptance, love over fear. This choice is not always easy, but it becomes easier with practice. The more you choose consciousness, the more natural it becomes. The more you choose truth, the more aligned you feel. The more you choose love, the more love you have to give. You think about the word integration and what it really means. It is not about making all your parts the same, but about helping them work together harmoniously. Like a symphony orchestra, each instrument plays its own part while contributing to the beauty of the whole. Your anger and your compassion, your doubt and your faith, your vulnerability and your strength. All of these are instruments in the orchestra of your being. When they are played in isolation, they create discord. When they are integrated into a coherent whole, they create music that can move mountains. This integration is not a destination you arrive at, but a process you engage with daily. It requires constant fine-tuning, constant attention, constant love. But the reward is a life of increasing authenticity, creativity, and aliveness. You feel yourself beginning to drift towards sleep, but it is a different kind of sleep than you have known before. It is not an escape from consciousness, but a different level of consciousness. You understand now that sleep is not the opposite of waking, but another form of waking, another dimension of awareness. In your dreams tonight, you will continue the conversation with the wise ones, receive new teachings, explore new territories of your own vast inner landscape. Sleep is no longer a retreat from life, but an extension of it, another classroom in the University of Consciousness. You allow your eyes to close, but your inner vision remains clear and bright. The boundary between waking and sleeping has become permeable, allowing wisdom to flow freely between states of consciousness. You are learning to be awake in your sleep and present in your dreams. The last thought you have before drifting into this new kind of sleep is a recognition of the profound gift you have received tonight. You have been given access to your own inner wisdom, your own healing power, your own capacity for transformation. Nothing external has changed, yet everything has changed. You sleep now with the deep peace of someone who has finally stopped running from themselves, who has finally turned toward what they had been avoiding, who has finally understood that the treasure they were seeking was never hidden, but only forgotten. The night wraps around you like a loving embrace, holding you in its gentle mystery, and in the space between heartbeats, between breaths, between thoughts, you smile. Because you know now that this is not an ending but a beginning. The real journey starts tomorrow, when you take these insights into the laboratory of your daily life and discover what it means to live as someone who has remembered who they truly are. But for now, you rest in the knowledge that you are held, that you are loved, that you're exactly where you need to be. The map you found in your nightmares has become a compass for your days, pointing always toward home, toward truth, toward the inexhaustible source of your own authentic being. The darkness is no longer dark but luminous with possibility. The silence is no longer empty but pregnant with unspoken wisdom. The solitude is no longer lonely but rich with the companionship of your own soul. You have found your way home, and home has been waiting for you all along. Sleep comes like a gentle tide, carrying you into realms where healing happens without effort, where integration occurs naturally, where the work of becoming whole continues even in rest. You surrender to this process with complete trust, knowing that you are supported by forces both seen and unseen. In the morning, when you wake, you will be both exactly the same and completely transformed. The paradox no longer troubles you because you have learned to be large enough to hold contradictions without being torn apart by them. You are human and divine, individual and universal, wounded and whole, all at the same time. Tomorrow you will discover what it means to live from this place of integrated wholeness. You will learn how to bring the wisdom of the inner world into the challenges of the outer world. You will practice translating mystical insights into practical actions, spiritual understanding into everyday choices. But tonight, you simply rest in the miracle of your own being, in the wonder of your own consciousness, in the mystery of your own transformation. You have undertaken the hero's journey and returned with the greatest treasure of all, your authentic self. The ancient wisdom keepers spoke of the night sea journey, the passage through darkness that every soul must make to find its light. Tonight you have completed this sacred voyage and emerged on the other shore forever changed by what you discovered in the depths of your own being, as sleep takes you into its nurturing embrace. Your last conscious thought is a prayer of gratitude for this journey, for this awakening, for this return to yourself. You have been given the greatest gift imaginable, the recognition of your own true nature, the remembering of your own inherent wholeness, the reclaiming of your own authentic power. Rest now, beloved traveller. The work continues tomorrow, but tonight you can simply be, simply breathe, simply exist as the miraculous expression of consciousness that you are and have always been. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and tonight you have taken that step home to yourself. In the depths of sleep, your soul continues its work of integration, weaving together all the threads of tonight's journey into the tapestry of your being. Every insight, every image, every moment of recognition becomes part of the fabric of who you are becoming. The child and the wise man, the shadow and the light, the fear and the love. All of these find their rightful place in the mandala of your consciousness. You're no longer fragmented but whole, no longer divided but integrated, no longer at war with yourself but at peace. This peace is not the absence of conflict but the presence of harmony. It is not the elimination of difficulty but the capacity to meet difficulty with grace. It is not the end of growth but the beginning of conscious evolution. You have learned to dance with paradox rather than be paralyzed by it. The dreams that come to you now are different from any you have known before. They are not random neural firings or psychological refuse, but messages from the deeper layers of your being. They are letters from your soul, written in the symbolic language that consciousness uses to communicate with itself. In one dream, you find yourself in a great cathedral made not of stone but of living light. The walls pulse with colours that have no names in waking language, and the air vibrates with harmonies that touch parts of you that music never reached before. You understand that this cathedral is your own consciousness, revealed in its true majesty and beauty. In another dream, you're walking through a city where every person you meet is a different aspect of yourself. The angry man at the newsstand is your frustrated ambition. The gentle woman feeding pigeons is your capacity for nurturing. The child playing in the fountain is your irrepressible joy. You greet each one with recognition and love. In yet another dream, you are standing at the edge of an ocean that stretches to infinity. The waves that crash at your feet are made of pure possibility, and you understand that this ocean is the creative potential that lies within you. You have been living on the shore, afraid to venture into the depths, but now you are ready to dive. These dreams and countless others weave through your sleep like golden threads, connecting you more deeply to the source of your being. They are not separate from your waking life, but part of a continuous conversation between the different levels of your consciousness. When you wake in the morning, you will not remember every detail of these dreams, but their essence will remain with you. They will continue to work on you from the inside out, like slow-release medicine for the soul. The transformation that began in waking consciousness will continue in the realm of sleep and dreams. You understand now why the ancient mystery schools taught that true initiation happens not in a single moment, but over a lifetime of deepening awareness. Tonight was your initiation into a new way of being, but the real test will come in how you integrate this understanding into your daily life. The challenges you face tomorrow will not disappear because of what you experienced tonight. If anything, they may seem more complex as you see them with clearer eyes, but you will meet them from a different place, with different resources, from a foundation of knowing who you truly are. The people in your life may not understand the change they sense in you. Some may resist it, preferring the familiar version of you they have grown accustomed to. Others may be inspired by it, recognizing in your transformation a possibility for their own. Both responses are part of the path. Your job is not to convince anyone else of what you have discovered, but to live it as authentically as you can. Your job is not to save or fix or enlighten anyone else, but to be a living example of what is possible when someone chooses love over fear, truth over convenience, authenticity over approval. This is how consciousness evolves, not through grand gestures or dramatic revelations, but through the accumulated choices of individuals who are willing to do their own inner work. Every person who awakens to their true nature sends ripples through the collective consciousness, making it easier for others to awaken. You are part of this great awakening, this evolutionary leap that humanity is in the process of making. Your individual journey is connected to the larger journey of consciousness itself, becoming aware of its own nature through countless eyes, countless hearts, countless lives. As you sleep, you can feel this connection to the larger whole. You are not separate from the source of all being, but a temporary expression of it, like a wave rising from the ocean and eventually returning to it. This recognition brings not fear, but profound comfort. You are held by something infinitely larger and more loving than your individual concerns. The wise old man appears once more in your dreams, but now you see him not as separate from yourself, but as your own deepest wisdom made visible. He smiles at your recognition and places his hand over your heart. Where he touches you, a seed of light begins to grow, spreading its illumination through every cell of your being. Remember, he says, and his voice is your voice speaking from the depths of eternity. You are the one you have been waiting for. You are the love you have been seeking. You are the home you have been trying to find. Everything you need is already within you, waiting for you to recognize it, claim it, and share it with the world. The seed of light continues to grow, becoming a tree of luminescence that stretches its branches into every aspect of your life. Its roots go deep into the earth of your being, drawing nourishment from the inexhaustible source of your authentic nature. Its leaves whisper secrets that your heart understands even when your mind cannot grasp their meaning. This tree becomes a refuge for all the aspects of yourself that you have been learning to embrace. The wounded child finds healing in its shade. The exhausted adult finds rest beneath its branches. The seeker finds answers in the rustling of its leaves. The dreamer finds inspiration in the patterns of light and shadow it creates. You understand that this tree is not separate from you, but is you, in your fully integrated state. It represents the possibility of living from your centered, authentic self, rather than from your reactive, conditioned personality. It shows you what it looks like to be rooted in truth while remaining flexible enough to dance with change. As the night deepens, your sleep becomes even more restorative. Your nervous system, which has been hypervigilant for so long, finally allows itself to relax completely. Your immune system, which has been compromised by years of stress and self-rejection, begins to repair and strengthen itself. Your entire being starts to recalibrate around this new understanding of who you are. The healing that is happening in your sleep is not just psychological, but physical, emotional, and spiritual. Every cell in your body is receiving the message that it is safe to be authentic, safe to be vulnerable, safe to be fully alive. The chronic tension you have carried for years begins to dissolve as your body learns to trust your new relationship with yourself. In your dreams, you revisit scenes from your past, but now you see them through the eyes of compassion rather than judgment. The mistakes you made were part of your learning. The pain you endured was part of your awakening. The relationships that ended were preparing you for deeper connection. Nothing was wasted, nothing was in vain. You see your parents not as the giants of your childhood, but as wounded children themselves, doing the best they could with the resources they had. You see your former partners not as the sources of your pain, but as mirrors, reflecting back the aspects of yourself you needed to heal. You see your enemies not as obstacles, but as teachers who helped you discover your strength. This perspective shift is perhaps the most healing aspect of your journey. When you can see your entire life as a curriculum designed to help you remember who you truly are, every experience becomes sacred. Even the most difficult chapters of your story reveal their hidden gifts when viewed from this higher perspective. The forgiveness that flows through you in this state of expanded awareness is not something you have to work at or manufacture. It arises naturally when you understand that everyone, including yourself, has been playing their perfect role in the grand drama of consciousness awakening to itself. Everyone has been both teacher and student, wounded and healer, lost and found. This forgiveness extends not just to others but to yourself, perhaps for the first time in your life. You forgive yourself for all the ways you tried to be someone you were not. You forgive yourself for all the times you betrayed your own truth to gain acceptance. You forgive yourself for all the years you spent running from the very thing that could set you free. With this forgiveness comes a profound sense of lightness, as if you have been carrying a heavy backpack for miles and finally realized you could set it down. The guilt and shame and regret that have been your constant companions begin to dissolve in the solvent of self-compassion. You wake briefly in the early hours before dawn, and for a moment you're disoriented, caught between worlds. The boundary between dream and reality seems thin and permeable. You can still feel the presence of the wise old man, still see the glowing tree, still hear the whispers of your own deepest wisdom. But instead of trying to hold on to these images or analyze their meaning, you simply let them flow through you like water. You understand now that the value of these experiences is not in remembering them perfectly, but in allowing them to transform you from the inside out. You close your eyes again and sink back into sleep, but now it feels more like meditation than unconsciousness. You're aware of being aware, conscious of the processes of healing and integration that are happening beneath the threshold of ordinary awareness. You're participating consciously in your own transformation. The hours pass like minutes, or perhaps minutes pass like hours. Time becomes fluid, malleable, irrelevant. You exist in a state of pure being, unburdened by the concerns of past or future, completely present to the miracle of your own existence in this eternal now. When you finally wake as the sun is rising, you feel as if you have lived 1,000 lives in a single night. You feel as if you have journeyed to the center of the earth and back, as if you have died and been reborn, as if you have found something you lost long ago and can never lose again. The room around you looks exactly the same, but you see it with new eyes. The morning light streaming through the window is not just photons hitting your retina, but the visible expression of the same life force that flows through your veins. The sounds of the awakening day are not just noise, but a symphony of existence celebrating itself. You sit up in bed and take a deep breath, feeling your lungs expand with air that tastes somehow different, fresher, more alive. You place your hand over your heart and feel its steady rhythm, and you are filled with gratitude for this faithful muscle that has been beating since before you were born, keeping you alive for this moment of recognition. You think of the wise old man's parting words. You are the one you have been waiting for. These words settle into your bones like seeds finding fertile ground. You understand now that every relationship you have ever sought, every teacher you have ever followed, every guru you have ever admired was preparing you for this moment of recognizing your own inner authority. This does not mean that you no longer need community or guidance or support. It means that you now engage with these resources from a place of wholeness rather than neediness, from a place of sharing rather than seeking, from a place of love rather than fear. You get out of bed and walk to the window looking out at the world that is the same and yet completely different. The trees in your yard are not just trees, but living expressions of the same creative force that breathes through you. The birds singing in their branches are not just making noise, but participating in the same universal song that your heart is learning to sing. You understand that you will spend the rest of your life translating the insights of this night into the language of daily living. You will learn to speak your truth with kindness, to set boundaries with love, to pursue your dreams with both passion and patience. You will discover what it means to be both fully human and fully divine. The journey that began last night will continue today and tomorrow, and for all the days of your life. But now you know that it is not a journey towards some distant destination, but a journey deeper into the mystery of who you already are. Every step you take from now on will be a step closer to home, closer to truth, closer to the inexhaustible source of your own authentic being. As you prepare to greet the day, you carry with you the treasures you gathered in the darkness. the remembrance of your true nature, the integration of your shadow and light, the recognition of your inherent wholeness, the knowing that you are loved beyond measure just as you are. These treasures are not possessions to be hoarded, but gifts to be shared. In every interaction you have today, you will have the opportunity to offer the gift of your authentic presence. In every challenge you face, you will have the chance to respond from your centered self rather than your reactive personality. The world needs what you have discovered in yourself. It needs your particular way of seeing, your unique gifts, your authentic expression of the divine consciousness that animates all life. You came here not to hide your light, but to let it shine, not to diminish yourself, but to stand in your full power, not to apologize for who you are, but to celebrate the magnificent being you have always been. The sun climbs higher in the sky, and you realize that a new day has dawned, not just in the external world, but in the landscape of your own consciousness. You're awake now in a way you have never been before, alive to possibilities you never imagined, open to a life that is richer and more meaningful than you ever thought possible. You smile as you begin your morning routine, but even these simple activities feel different now. Brushing your teeth becomes a meditation on self-care. Taking a shower becomes a ritual of cleansing and renewal. Getting dressed becomes an opportunity to choose clothes that reflect your authentic self rather than your performed self. Every moment offers a choice. Will you respond from fear or love? Will you speak from truth or convenience? Will you choose authenticity or approval? These choices, made moment by moment throughout the day, are how the transformation that began last night becomes integrated into your lived experience. You know that there will be times when you forget, when you slip back into old patterns, when you choose the familiar over the true. This is not failure, but part of the human experience. The difference now is that you have a reference point for your authentic self, a compass that points toward home no matter how far you may wander. Each time you remember and return to this deeper truth, you strengthen the neural pathways that support your integrated self. Each time you choose love over fear, you make that choice a little easier next time. Each time you honor your authentic nature, you create space for others to do the same. This is how the world heals. One person at a time, one choice at a time, one moment of authentic being at a time. You are part of this healing, not just as a recipient, but as an agent. Your journey matters not just for you, but for everyone whose life you touch. As you step out into the day, you carry with you the wisdom of the night, the love of the eternal, the peace of the integrated self. You're ready now to live as who you truly are, to offer your gifts without apology, to take your place in the great symphony of consciousness awakening to itself. The hero's journey is complete, but the adventure of authentic living has just begun. You have found the treasure you were seeking, and now it is time to share it with the world. The map you discovered in your nightmares has become a compass for your days, pointing always toward truth, toward love, toward the inexhaustible mystery of your own divine nature. Welcome home, beloved traveller. Welcome to the rest of your beautifully authentic life.